Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm Alexis, and I'm joined by David Francisco here on the Red Spotlight podcast, bringing you everything coming out of the world of movies and more. For the first time in quite a number of weeks, as it turns out. Last time we were here on this regular podcast, we discussed the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And, of course, there had been a number of things that have come out since then. Quite a number of things, as a matter of fact. And we're here today to hopefully, catch us up as much as, possibly can be. But we'll see how much we actually get done today. This is going to be episode number 485. Primarily discussing Inside Out 2, the state of Pixar, and then other things that have happened in the last couple of weeks and what we may have to look forward to as the summer movie season continues to go on here. David, I don't know if we have some explaining to do, but there's certainly have been some absence here. This might be the longest absence and hiatus we've had on this podcast in quite a number of years. I do apologize to our audience here, of course, for that. I had been terribly busy, perhaps the busiest I've been, but I've also just been unavailable. But I hadn't been the only one. I think this just happened to be the time where literally nobody was able to do this. And as a matter of fact, even our other reaction series for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. On our channel right here had also been affected because of our inability to be available, quite frankly. I know for a fact that last time we were on the show a month ago, I think I talked about how Peter was available. Psych. There's still evidently, as a lot of these induction programs love to, squeeze you for everything that they're worth, and so there's another test that he apparently has to study for, and so here we are again with will he, won't he, probably won't, so there it is. Hilariously enough, I spoke with him on the phone today for 5 minutes, and I inquired about whether or not are we going to be actually doing a top 10 of 2023 show, and he told me for sure by the end of 2024. So that's the most I was able to get out of him, And here I was thinking the other day, maybe I should look at my list again and make sure I still feel the same way, and I'm like, well, why even bother? Last I spoke with Kyle Lira about this, I was trying to give him an out, and he was like, well, I'll hold on to that. Doesn't even speak to me, but here we are. Okay, let's just, okay. So, again, I just want the record, for those longtime listeners, to know, a couple of years ago, the longest we ever had done one of these shows into the next year was May. And that particular year was because I had a vacation to go to. But I could not hear the end of it from some people. Ironically enough, the same individuals who at this moment are the reason for why the show can't exist. So, I love how the turntables, all these years later. But again, they won't hear it. They won't hear it. And that's where we are. Peter told me that he was thinking about watching a movie yesterday. Didn't watch it, but he was thinking about watching. Well, I guess that's progress on some level, I guess. And I've been really trying to get Peter to be on the show because I actually, he's actually seen a lot of the new movies that have come out this year. Ironically enough, he's seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Has not been able to get his thoughts on it. He's seen Challengers by Luca Guadagnino. Have not been able to get his thoughts on it. He has seen Furiosa. I saw Furiosa with him twice. We loved the film. I want to talk about that movie. I can't, It's there's so many things I want to do, and I've just been unable to do so. I mean, I wanted to do a Wim Wenders podcast with him, with all the other films that we know of him, and talk about him. Can't do that. I know we talked to David about doing a Spielberg thing, but that was months ago. It's there's all this talk and these wonderful ideas of wanting to get started, but we just can't do that. And usually in the past, we've had the luxury of time and availability to do that. And I think, I don't know, for whatever reason, it's been getting harder and harder to do. So, just to, for the audience out there, we haven't forgotten about you. I honestly, but to be fair, I did want a break like a 3 week break, but it was more like a 4 or 5 week break. And I was like, okay, we need to get back to this podcast because there's some things to talk about.
Yeah.
Like this movie, for instance, happened. By the way, we're now, as a matter of fact, we're recording this on the day that this thing behind me inexplicably became the highest grossing animated film of all time. So it's like a lot has happened in the time that we last spoke with you. So, you know, when we were last on the podcast, the sky was falling, right? Like everybody was like running around with their heads cut off because, oh my God, the movies aren't making any money. What are we gonna do? Is this the end? And then this thing comes along and it's like, well, you see, guys, we knew all along it was gonna be fine. We have to thank our Disney overlords once again for saving the day, as if that was a good thing. I mean, yeah, I'm happy that this thing brought people back to the movies, but at the same time, and it's like, do we always have to have that fucking studio and that company save our asses? Like, really, people? And I'm talking to you guys at home. Is this really all that it takes? Is this the only thing that it takes to get you guys to give a fuck about what's going on in the movies? Because at this point, that's what the story should be. Like, it's not so much like, oh, what a celebration of film and cinema. It's more of like, God damn, how fucking depressing how that's all that you care about. And you know what? And thumbs up. It was a like and a thumbs up. And I want to be clear about this. I love Disney films. I love Pixar films especially. Disney is a great brand and has produced an amazing, long-standing history of amazing cinematic experiences. That's not my problem. And in fact, I don't even care if that's always going to be number one. What really should be talked about is the damage that's going to do. Just, I mean, honestly, look, Inside Out 2 has made the most amount of money. I don't even know at this point. It's been, what, 1 point something billion, whatever. Today, it surpassed Frozen 2. But no one is talking about and has not discussed, because they all want to be like, yay, Disney, thank you for saving us, thank you for saving the movies. But nobody wants to talk about, wait a minute, what the hell does this mean for Pixar? Oh my God. What
the fuck? That's new. You gotta look at your settings and see if, like...
do you see how much the universe is against me? How when I say that, I'm painting it as a bad thing, there are some fireworks that just fly off behind me? I don't know. I haven't even touched my settings. That was funny.
Yeah.
That was seriously funny. But it's like, but that effect was literally Bob Iger just like, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted, and now I can do whatever the hell I want. I can do fucking Fox and the Hound 5000, and we can bring back the Sword of the Stone and, you know, make 5 more of those. Let's do Toy Story 10. Let's do Frozen 5. Let's do Zootopia 5. Let's do Moana 3. Let's, we'll just do The Hunchback of Notre Dame 5. Like, literally, it's like, this is all what this means. And the idea that we're not going to give any kind of, look, I know we just came back, but we're going to just jump straight into this. Like, I am happy, once again, that people are out in the movie. Well, you know what? I'm a little, I'll get to that part about it. It's kind of annoying, honestly, for me. Like, I love going to the movies, but I'll get to that point in a minute. But maneuvering around crowds is not fun when they're busy. We want them to be full, but not that full. But they were full, and you know what? The theaters themselves deserve this. At the same time, though, it's like, look, and to keep in mind, of course, I think Inside Out 2 technically was greenlit during the Bob Chapek era, but Inside Out 2 is the blueprint exactly for what Bob Iger wants and what has he already been doing. I mean, don't forget that Moana 2 isn't even a real movie. It is 6 episodes of what was supposed to be a miniseries, and then they just strung it along together, and now they're calling it a movie. And if you look at that trailer, and we haven't discussed that trailer very much on the show, and you know why? Because, like, what do you even make of that trailer? There's no story there. It was a nothing trailer. It was just, hey guys, do you like Moana? Well, guess what? She's coming back to theaters with some new adventures. Honestly, one of the most incoherent trailers I had seen in quite some time. And that's what happens when you stitch together what was not supposed to be a movie, and now it's going to be a movie. And so, what Inside Out 2 and the success that this does is it basically validates Bob Iger's whole, let's just do sequels, and sequels. Exactly what we were afraid was going to happen. And especially for the damage this will inflict on Pixar, well, here we go again. You know, look, we get into this very many times. The Pixar sequel era is complicated for me personally because I think like most of those movies are pretty damn good. And some I think are pretty great. But people liked Pixar because of the original concepts and just the originality that would come out through them. And you know, it would be rare that they would make a sequel. Then Disney bought them, and a few years after that, John Lasseter was moved over to Disney Animation, well, technically still at Pixar, and then sequel, and then less original films, and then, yeah, they made all that money. The timing, man, was just damn fucking awful, because as soon as Toy Story 4 happened, that was the last known sequel, fucking global pandemic. And when the global pandemic hit, then we had the first, like, it had been honestly, they had a streak of original films releases. You had Onward, Soul, Luca, Turning Red. Lightyear technically is not a sequel, so we'll count Lightyear. Elemental. You had 6 Pixar films in a row that were not sequels. And that was like, whoa. And we were excited here on this podcast because, yes, this is what we want from this studio. We want originality. We want new ideas. We want new movies and characters. And we'll get to the whole, I think that era, unfortunately, has, you know, Disney has decided that for the sake of propping up their new sequel era, they're gonna in the trades anyway, they're gonna throw it under the bus as they did, as we discussed in our recent comments. All the while, by the way, I had the chance to go and attend their Pixar Fest at the Disney parks this year, a few weeks ago, and that could not be further from the truth, honestly, in terms of like what's happening there. It is such a disconnect. What Disney is communicating to you online and through the trades was that films like Soul and Luca and Turning Red were miserable failures. And yet, at the exact same time, if you go and visit their parks right now, those movies are plastered all over the festivities happening on right now in parade floats and nighttime spectaculars. It's like, what is happening here? They want the justification for you guys to understand that all we know and that all you know, that what we know that all you want, and we know that all you want are sequels, and we're going to give those to you, and then. And that is where we are back to this depressing state, is that if had it not been for the global pandemic, I really have to wonder what would have happened. Because it's not, even Onward, it's not fair. Onward opened, and in its second week, half the world shut down. So when you had Onward, Soul, Luca, Turning Red, all 4 of those films, realistically speaking, were not given opportunities to perform. Okay. What made it infuriating was that, okay, in an ideal world, no, they weren't. But 2 of them especially had no need to only be online. Let's be real about that. Those last 2 were like, what the hell? We can understand the first 2 because of the situation being what they were back in 2020. But when you get to 2021 and 2022, things had changed. There was no reason for those last 2 films to only be on Disney Plus and not have gone to theaters. So, with all that being said, then we get to this movie. And it is a smashing success. And it has been a smashing success, far more than anybody ever gave it credit for. I feel we need to be real about why sequels are successful in the first place. And this is why there's a danger in making sequels. Because if you make a sequel that isn't as good as the original, or not perceived to be as good as the original, and let's be real here, whether or not something is as good or is perceived to be as good are very two different things. Look, not all of us agree on movies. We're not going to, but we have to understand that there is such a disconnect between what we here at Red Spotlight think and what they and the masses out there think, or what your average person thinks. Clearly, based on the reviews and based on the cinema score, this film was a hoot. People loved it. The audiences loved it, and the critics even much more. And I will say, inexplicably from my point of view, loved it. It is strange to me because I have seen next to absolutely no criticism of this film. And you have to appreciate how rare that is. Like, even the best of movies out there have their fair share of detractors, right? Even the best of films out there have a bunch of pieces that are being critical about some elements of the film. I've seen no discussion whatsoever about that at all. I've seen nothing but praise. Okay. That's interesting there. But why was The Empire Strikes Back so successful back in 1980? Because Star Wars was a big hit, right? Why was Toy Story 2 or Toy Story 3 or Toy Story 4, why were all those movies so successful? Because of the first. Why was Inside Out 2 as successful as it is today? Because of Inside Out 1. That movie, I feel like when we first saw it back in 2015, which was, dear God, almost 10 years ago to the day, when we first saw it, we all kind of realized in an instant that probably is going to be one of Pixar's most remembered movies. And it probably was like one of the most Pixar movies, because when you think of Pixar, you think of high concepts, original concepts, and, clever concepts, and emotion. And that definitely had emotion written all over its DNA. And it had 9 years to live with audiences and also gain new audiences. With those in the span of 9 years, those kids that were kids, they grew up. New kids were born and watched this movie. And then with Disney Plus, with the advent of streaming, a lot of these films end up getting a new life, for sure. So we definitely should credit the originality and the success of the first film, which, if we don't remember, we should. And this also, I think the first Inside Out movie makes a strong case for how powerful Disney was in the 2010s. Because you know what? In the 2010s, there was the occasional original film out there, and you know what? They did pretty damn good. Like Inside Out 1 and Zootopia. Granted, one was Disney Animation and one was Pixar. But get this. They were original films, when they came out. Look at how amazing they did. Inside Out 1 made $900 million worldwide. That's fucking insane for an original animated movie. Unfortunately, we live in times where that can't happen anymore. And it's sad. It's so sad. Zootopia did even better. Zootopia, an original Disney movie, over $1 billion. I don't even remember how much the first Frozen made, but it was over $1 billion. I'm sure it was. So it's like, in the 2010s, definitely more people were going to movies, and Disney was of a higher stature, but they were able to have a lot of big, big hits with original ideas and original films. And unfortunately, through the advent of streaming, through the collapse of, I would say, film criticism, the collapse of the audiences at large really caring that much about film, and that in turn, leading to less and less people going to theaters. And then, of course, with the global pandemic fucking everything over in every way you can imagine, we're now in a position where if you look at the table in front of you, Bob Iger has made the calculation that the only way that the studios that he is overseeing can move forward and make anywhere near the money that they used to make is by just doing sequel. It's not just how it was in the 2010s. It's like 10 times worse than it was then. Because now we're not going to be able to have the original films have an opportunity to flourish. Just imagine if you had a movie like Turning Red or Elemental or Luca or Soul. Imagine if they came out in the 2010s. Coco did like between $600 to $700 million worldwide. That's a massive hit. And it's like, and I know that a lot of people online were like saying, well, come on. Pixar's not going to just do sequels. They have Elio coming out next year, idiot. Okay. First of all, Elio was supposed to come out already. I really have to question what was behind them delaying it. Clearly there were problems. That's not the first time that's happened to a Pixar film, but you gotta wonder what's really happening. Evidently, Domi Shi, the director behind Turning Red, has been brought in to oversee Elio, so there's that. But I believe we're a few weeks away from Disney making some new announcements. They have an opportunity there to announce some new films, sure. But at the moment, are we really supposed to be celebrating the only upcoming original Pixar film that we know about is Elio? When we know of more Pixar projects and we know that they're sequels, it's like, does not cross your mind how bad that looks? Especially when one of them is Toy Story 5, which I gotta tell you, and we had this discussion off air yesterday, David, as we finished our S.H.I.E.L.D. reaction episode. I'm just like, that one, I'm genuinely like, of all the other sequels that are going to be coming out, they really, if they don't get it right, they are going to screw the pooch really badly with that one. Because let's be real here. They were already facing an uphill battle trying to justify the existence of the fourth film. Mm-hmm. And I feel that they barely got away with it, for being real with you, with that situation. But a fifth movie, and it also just, that's the one that feels the most hollow because the fourth one ended things. And I believe, and I know you had this question, I want to say that I read somewhere for sure that the fifth one was going to have Buzz and Woody reunite. And if that's the case, well, then what the hell was the point of the last movie here?
Yeah. I know I said, so how can you have a movie without Woody? But I wouldn't have meant that as like bring him on. I meant that like I'm very curious as to how a movie without Woody's gonna look like. Is little bits of him gonna be with Buzz and all that? Is he gonna like try to represent him as much as he can or something like that? Maybe that can be the story. It can be Buzz trying to be like Woody in some way, and then there's Jesse maybe is like, you're not Woody. Like, stop trying. If
Woody isn't around, then your two leads are very much Buzz and Jesse.
Mm-hmm. Which it can work. Like,
they can work.
They always work. They're always like great together. So why not?
And so I don't know how you even bring Woody back, and why would you bring Woody back, especially when you look at the ending of that last film. And so it's like that one really is gonna have to fight for its right to exist. I don't know what the hell. The only thing, like I told you, that they have going in its favor is that they have one of the original architects of those films and of the entire Pixar studio. Andrew Stanton has to be probably the last remaining of the old guard of Pixar. The original guard, you had John Lasseter, who basically is Voldemort now. We don't speak of him. We had, Lee Unkrich, which I don't know if he's still involved. Lee Unkrich co-directed Toy Story 2. He co-directed Finding Nemo. He directed Toy Story 3. He directed Coco. I don't know if he's still involved in Pixar, but that's a great track record there. Pete Docter obviously is still around. He directed Monsters Inc. and Up and Inside Out and Soul, and he's now the chief creative officer for the studio. But Andrew Stanton is the one. He directed and wrote Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, and Wall-E, but he also has co-written the screenplays for all the Toy Story films. And I suspect he was probably the one that saved the fourth movie. I had not realized that Toy Story 4, in a way, kind of screwed over Incredibles 2. By the way, I'm not sure how much better Incredibles 2 would have been, considering how things, what we received. I feel you and I are on the same page that Incredibles 2 is perhaps one of the more disappointing sequels, not just in the annals of Pixar, but perhaps just sequels generally. That is just what we ended up getting was honestly it felt like a Disney Channel original series spin-off TV movie, and that's putting it mildly, with when we're comparing it to the original film. And Brad Bird and a lot of the team, when they were doing the press conferences, were quite clear in saying that they were asked to basically have their movie out a whole year ahead of schedule because Toy Story 4 fell apart. Behind the scenes, remember when it was announced 10 years ago, by the way, Toy Story 4 was announced. John Lasseter was directing that film, and supposedly he brought on new people like Rashida Jones. However, Rashida Jones left the project saying that Pixar was, and she accused Pixar of not being open to new voices of color and female voices, and that was this whole other scandal. And then John Lasseter had his own private scandal that happened, and so between all of that, the whole thing was in danger of being completely jettisoned. And I personally credit Andrew Stanton, but also Josh Cooley, who has been a long-time Pixar person, but he was the one that ended up, taking the reins as director officially. But that being said, considering what was being thought of Incredibles 2, I don't know how much better really it would have been. Maybe it would have been better. Who knows? But that's crazy how even then, you should have just said, okay, then we'll just have no movie this year. I don't know why you had to swap Incredibles, because I guess it was supposed to come out 2017, 2018. It didn't come out until 2019. Incredibles 2 was 2018. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, some years they even had 2 Pixar films, so I don't know why you can't just take a year off. Like 2017, you had Cars 3 and you had Coco. Just take the year off and then come back in 2019 and do Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4. It's like a no-brainer. But yeah, the way that executives, get in the way of film's own success, and I say that in terms of quality. Incredibles 2 didn't lack for success. It made over $1 billion. It was one of the most successful, films ever, clearly. But there were even reports that, a few weeks ago that they were looking at Finding Nemo 3, Incredibles 3. It's just, oh my God, that's kind of the state of where we're in right now. And I know we've been going on for half an hour. I've been talking your ears is off for this long. We haven't even gotten into the film yet, and we will. But I'll take this time to shut myself up, David. I would like to get your thoughts on what I have been talking about. Do you share these concerns? Do you feel that what I'm speaking to is on the mark? Do you feel any differently about what I've been saying? Do you feel equally frustrated? Are you more optimistic? How do you read the success of Inside Out 2?
No, I'm pretty much at the same way as you. For one thing, yeah, it was before the movie came out, people were kind of like, "Oh, what's wrong with theaters nowadays? That they're losing money and everything. The studios are worried, blah blah blah." And yet the whole woke Hollywood is burning type of conversations and everything. Then this movie comes out and it's super successful. Literally, don't see a single video about this being successful and how no one wants to admit that it's wrong. And then we got Twisters that came out and it's doing pretty well. Look at that. Which, yes, sequel, but I don't know. I feel like that's a sequel to such a movie that not a lot of people know about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think the same, or are we just out of the loop on this? I don't know.
I know you're talking about Twisters. You cut out quickly. What was the film you were talking about before Twisters?
Just Inside Out 2.
Okay, yeah. Twisters was successful. It is a sequel, but it's not really a franchise.
Yeah.
It was like a 90s flick that I'm not sure many remember, but, I guess enough remembered it. It's not really an IP, but it was more sold on the movie star Glenn Powell, so it's kind of, but not really. If anything,
it's weird.
It's the most original feeling sequel, I guess you could imagine.
Mm-hmm. So there's that too. It's doing well. So that. By the way,
what also did well was freaking Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which didn't have the sexiest of numbers when it first started out. But guess what? It's finishing pretty fucking strongly, isn't it?
Yeah. So again, those conversations were dumb to begin with. They're
dumb always, and a waste of time.
They're always going to bounce back and everything. In term for Pixar themselves, I am worried about it because they had some very great original movies come out that were not given the chance to shine, and then this movie comes along and now like you mentioned, we're just gonna get another Inside Out movie. What was it? Toy Story
Inside
5.
Out 3.
Inside Out 3 for sure. Toy Story 5. And I remember I saw this funny post. It was Toy Story 5 and Shrek 5, and someone goes, "How is it that Toy Story 5 feels like it's a franchise going on for too long, but Shrek 5 is something that we need." We needed that movie for sure. So I thought that was hilarious. But and then what I'm hoping for in studios is just at the very least they think sequels is a safe option, not the only and successful option, I guess you can say. I really don't mind getting sequels to stuff, even sequels to old movies like Twisters in a sense and all that, but let's keep it one to two movies a year and let the rest be originals or something like that. I don't know. Not for Pixar though, that would be difficult because they only put out one or two movies a year, obviously, and all that. So I would say maybe one every other year or something like that.
Yeah. What were you saying earlier about God, I lost it. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, you were saying.
No, that's fine. But yeah, like I said, basically the same way as you. I'm worried about what studios are going to think about because of the success, but
oh, I found it again. Here's the thing. Sequels to the right properties are still bankable and will be bankable. I want to not allow people to forget. Just last year, 2023 had a lot of sequels, but guess what happened? They all kind of crashed and burned. But you know why? Nobody wanted those sequels. That's the thing. If you find a sequel that people actually want, then boom, 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 right? But as we saw last year, if you greenlit sequels to things that are really old or have fallen so out of the pop culture zeitgeist, people are going to go eh. Or if you even go to sequels of franchises that are really? Are you still going here? Which is why Toy Story 5 has a bit of a danger there, because people are really? A Toy Story 5? But with last year, you had an Indiana Jones? Who's Indiana Jones? I'm legitimately asking that question because I feel like a lot of people were Wait, who's Indiana Jones? That's how long it's been since the last one came out. Like 15 freaking years. That's how long it's been. Like, and who even cared anymore? I mean, even freaking Mission Impossible, which they had a terrific, awesome fucking movie with Dead Reckoning. I still can't believe how people were like, and they were like, what? That's such an awesome film. Didn't care. And those weren't the only ones. And even a film that came out earlier this year had the same kind of treatment, unfortunately, because I feel like it's one of the best films of the year, by George Miller, Furiosa. Furiosa came out and nobody cared. Nobody cared. And I'm like, but what happened here? Mad Max is a beloved film. How would a film that is somewhat a continuation of the story, why would that not get people to care? Well, here's the thing. Memories are short, man. And Inside Out had the benefit of living and continuing to find new audiences because of its Disney association and with Disney Plus. Mad Max did not have that luxury. Yes, both Mad Max, Fury Road, and Inside Out came out at the exact same time back in 2015. And yes, both of their sequels, Furiosa and Inside Out 2, came out around the exact same time in 2024. One of them was a massive success, and one of them was a miserable failure. And here's the other danger, is you're going to do sequels. There, in my view, you have 5 years. Max. 5 years to get a sequel out. If it goes even a year after that, don't even bother with it. Because people are not... I feel like Furiosa came out and they were like, who's Mad Max? Literally. I'm sure a lot of the audience were like, I've never heard of Mad Max before. So, since we're on this topic of box office, do we think, now, grant you, you know what? I was going to bring up Deadpool. Well, I'm going to wait for Deadpool for a minute. Let's keep on Inside Out 2. What happened here, David? Like, I know I just explained what I think happened, but like, even still, I had a pretty good idea it would make $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
But dethroning Frozen twice? Frozen and Frozen Part 2, now the highest grossing animated movie of all time? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
I find it kind of inexplicable. It's like, wait, what? This movie?
Yeah.
This movie. Okay. You have... What do you say?
I don't know. But, so we should get to the review of it, or...
Well, I was going to say, before we go to the review, how do you feel Deadpool and Wolverine are going to fare?
I think it's going to be pretty successful. I know the reviews haven't been...
They've still been overwhelmingly... I mean, it has an 81%, right, at Rotten Tomatoes. That's still pretty good. It's not like it's like hitting 70s or 60s. I know that what you mean to say, the reviews for us aren't that enchanting, but for general audience people, they're good enough. And it's Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm thinking, look, I think the idea was Marvel kind of needs a win. I think they're going to get one with this. It's pretty hard to fail with Deadpool and Wolverine, I would imagine. The question remains, though, is how big of a hit is it going to be? Like, are we talking No Way Home numbers? We'll have to find out. Like, I think a lot of it has to really depend on how big of a number that opening weekend is going to be.
Yeah,
I don't know, quite frankly, what it's going to end up looking like.
It's honest. It's hard for me to believe like any Marvel movie making $1 billion now. But
yeah,
it's still gonna. I think this one's still gonna be one of the most successful in recent times.
Did No Way Home cross that threshold?
Yeah, eventually. It did.
Yeah, it did, right? Yeah. It looked for a minute that it might not be able to do that.
Yeah, it was iffy at first, but it did eventually get to $1 billion for sure. But yeah, like I said, it's hard for me to believe that a Marvel movie will reach $1 billion, but it's Wolverine, so it's Hugh Jackman. That's gonna bring in a lot of audience members for sure. Even my dad, he saw the first one, thought it was fine, never saw the second one, saw a clip of the second one, and was like laughing his ass off. So I don't know if he ever saw it eventually, but once he saw Wolverine in the title, he was like, I want to see this one. So
the thing is, like, the Deadpool movies are really good.
Mm-hmm.
But the MCU was not involved in those movies, now were they?
Mm-hmm.
Now they are in this one. That always gives me pause.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to the reviews in a minute of Deadpool. I mean, you know what? You know what? There's some. Have you been reading any of them?
No, I just know most of them are just like it's kind of boring or something or stale.
Let me see. Since we're already here, and I promise people, we will get to Inside Out. Let's see. Here's one. Vulture is the publication. This is written by Bill Jabari. This is what he says. Right before he and Wolverine have their first big fight in Deadpool and Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool asides to the camera. Get your special stock out, nerds. It's going to get good. It probably doesn't matter that what ensues is an uninspired mishmash of neck-slicing, heart-stabbing, and other blood-spurting blows. Neither of them can die, you see, so the violence is basically meaningless. No, what matters is Deadpool's address to the camera, which pretends to insult its putative audience even as it flatters us, making us feel like we're in on a great big joke along with him. This, of course, the Deadpool way. This is the Deadpool way. He's supposed to be the foul-mouthed, gutter-minded, fourth-wall-breaking goofball of the Marvel Empire, a darling to both comic geeks and those who imagine themselves as above the superhero fray. He delivers fan service even as he undercuts the whole enterprise. They call me the Merc with a mouth, he insists at one point. They don't call me the truthful Timmy, the blowjob queen of Saskatoon. Look, I laughed. I also laughed when he mocked Hugh Jackman as Wolverine for finally wearing his classic yellow and blue costume. Friends don't let friends leave home looking like they fight crime for the Los Angeles Rams. The half-anguished, half-delighted, orgasmic yap emitted by some of my audience when Wolverine finally donned his pointy-eared helmet suggests that the film knows how to hit the fan sweet spot. Special sock, indeed. Deadpool and Wolverine isn't a particularly good movie. I'm not even sure it is a movie. I'm gonna pause right there. I ought to be real with you. What he said right there isn't a particularly good movie. I'm not even sure it is a movie. Do you know that pretty much perfectly summarizes how I feel about Spider-Man No Way Home? Isn't a particularly good movie. I'm not even sure if it is a movie. I was even talking about this with Peter today earlier. We were talking about the film, and I was telling him, like, look, I know that it was a big success, and I know at the time people were like, yeah, it was the best thing ever. But like, here we are a few years later, and it's like, do you notice that nobody ever brings that movie up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one talks about that film. Almost like it never even happened. Almost as if it was designed to, like, only work the one time you saw it and then never work ever again. I hope this isn't this, like that. Do you feel that way about No Way Home as well? Like it had no staying power, right? I don't think about it. There's nothing to go back to and talk about, really.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I mean to say. Like, it didn't have any kind of, like, impact.
Yeah, pretty much same way. I mean, I didn't like it when I first saw it. At least I didn't enjoy it.
You were different. You were different. I forget that you didn't really care for the movie to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But the point that I was making is that most people did care for it, but now...
Yeah. So...
What do you say? Mm. Oh, yeah, it had Spider-Man in it. Pretty funny, though, of course, that once we hit Across the Spider-Verse last year, take me back, man. Take me back to last year and watching that movie for the first time. That was such an... I remember I saw it 3 times in one weekend, Across the Spider-Verse. I was like... That was such a good movie. Okay, so let me continue with what I was reading here. So he's not saying... I'm not even sure it is a movie. But it's so determined to beat you down with its incessant irreverence that you might find yourself submitting to it. Pretty positive, right? You might find yourself submitting to it. It'll beat you down enough where you're like, okay, fine. The picture arrives, of course, at a follow time for Marvel after a string of duds and an abortive attempt to introduce a new superhero phase following the climactic stage clearing battles of Endgame. It's something of a relief that this new movie isn't trying to reboot or revamp or extend or set the stage for anything. Honestly, it appears to exist solely to make money. The film tries to wink its way out of its nonsense plot, a convoluted setup that involves Deadpool finding a live Wolverine in another universe so that he can save his own universe before it's destroyed by the mysterious TVA. At least for a while. Good day, mate. There's nothing that will bring me back faster than a big bag of Marvel cash. Deadpool chirps in a Jackman-adjacent Aussie accent early on, when it looks like Wolverine will remain as dead as he was at the end of James Mangold's Logan. You get the idea. There are approximately 296 other similar jokes where that came from. Deadpool has only 2 flavors of humor: knowing digs at the industry that spawned him and sex jokes. Occasionally it's both. These are funny the first few times, but after a while you wonder if maybe he should attempt some new material. But that would go against the ethos of the character, who is supposed to be annoying in one note. Indeed, that's sort of why Wolverine wants to beat his ass, and Jackman, to his credit, can still make the character's rage poppable. In their second, far more entertaining fight, which happens entirely within the confines of a Honda Odyssey, the stakes suddenly feel genuine, because Jackman briefly brings something resembling gravitas to this silly lark of a movie. He acts circles around his co-star, whose lack of range has a handicap during the decade plus that Hollywood was trying to turn him into a leading man. Reynolds never could convince us of his character's sincerity in those dry years, which is why the snarky Deadpool wound up being his biggest and probably best role. And this movie seems to recognize that what's really doing, aside from bringing together 2 of Fox's biggest assets under the Disney banner, is colliding the cheekiest Marvel hero with the most unsmiling. The cheekiness, of course, wins. So there's, yeah. Would we call that a positive review? There was some positivity in there. Chris Evangelista says, Hugh Jackman is doing really good work here. Too bad the rest of the movie sabotages him at every turn in that flat filmmaking and even flatter jokes. Cool. You have here Bibbs, William Bibbiani. Deadpool and Wolverine is distressingly dismal. The more I think about it, the worse it gets. Oh God, I hate those. That's not fun. Perry Nemiroff, said a wonderfully irreverent and super bloody buddy road trip movie, and I loved every ounce of it. I enjoyed a number of the recent MCU entries. That's a red flag, by the way, because if you did, well, we didn't, so there you go. She says, this thing is on fire from start to finish, sky-high energy and consistently hilarious. In particular, though, I couldn't get enough of the meta humor, the way it pokes fun at the filmmaking and the film industry. Okay, that's Perry Nemiroff. Let's see here. Dan Marcus, Deadpool and Wolverine is the best Marvel film in many years. It is funny, violent as hell, and has a really big heart. Okay. Robert Daniels. Simply said, one of the worst made movies of the year.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess we'll see what happens. Peter says, I've seen some deeply negative reviews. It feels bad I was excited. Who knows, though? You don't know till you see it. He is correct.
Yeah.
He is correct. You don't really know. There have been plenty of times where some things, kind of foreshadowing what we're about to discuss, right? Where there have been some amazing written reviews about something, and then we see it, and I'm like,
it was fine.
the fuck? What the fuck? And there have also been times where things have been written and it's like, it's the worst thing ever. It killed your mom. And then you walk in there and it's like, it wasn't that bad, you know? There were some redeeming things about it. So, but then there are times where you watch it and it was like, wow, that made me feel nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That made me feel nothing. So it's like, what's gonna happen? What really is gonna happen? I don't know. I think I'm gonna see it tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes with that. But Jesus Christ, are you excited or are you nervous? Be honest with me.
Nervous more so.
You
I
both.
think I've always been nervous about it, just because I don't want it to be bad. And
No.
But I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's just like you think of that title and you kind of like, what can go wrong, you know? But then at the same time, you're like, because of the past Marvel movies, you're also like, a lot can go wrong, honestly. So.
Yeah, too much can go wrong. There was another one here I wanted to just bring up real quick. Clint Worthington says, I don't know, man. I think I'm getting too old for this shit. I will tell you this. This is how I felt when I watched the trailers to Deadpool and Wolverine. And here's the thing, like, it also just may be a case of this just came out way too late, because here's the thing. I love the first two Deadpool movies. I really, really love those movies. And I think they're hilarious. But you got to keep in mind, those movies came out in a time when we were loving the comic book stuff. Now it's coming out when we're kind of not.
Mm-hmm.
And like the whole mood and the temperature has changed, and people aren't in the mood anymore for this kind of stuff. And so you have to wonder, is it going to play the same way as it did? The answer is no. And we're going to see how, and I think you're seeing in a lot of the reviews, a lot of patience being worn out while experiencing this film. The word exhausting has repeatedly been thrown out in a lot of these reviews. And I got to say that for me, I don't know how you felt about it, but man, I like the first Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. I think there was some more footage that came out, and I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to like this anymore. Like, I feel like the 2018 version of me would have liked this a lot more, but where I'm at right now is it's not hitting. And I know that it may be more of a me thing than more of the movie thing. But, you know, sometimes, again, we change. Tastes evolve. They don't stay stagnant. You know, we keep moving forward as we do as people. And I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous about it. And also at the same time, it is an MCU film. And that means we have to be prepared for some shitty CGI. So a lot of gray, like, you know, washed out colors, and it probably looking pretty muddy, because that's just how it usually works with the MCU. Mm-hmm. Eric Marchin, pretty freaking scathing. He said, Deadpool and Wolverine belong in the soulless void of corporate cash grabs, desperate to extend the MCU's shelf life. Hugh Jackman, try as he might, gets continually undercut by Ryan Reynolds' huckster humor and Sean Levy's formulaic filmmaking. A sorry state for blockbusters. Fuck. And Sean Levy was another concern here. Because for whatever reason, Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy have seemingly, like, they got married, I guess, and so now they're always working together, and that has not been great because Sean Levy is just not a good filmmaker. Not really. I mean, he's made some good movies, but he doesn't have any visual language or style. And with superheroes, you need that. You can't film these superhero films. Stop getting these comedy directors. Stop getting these people who don't know what to do with a camera. That's why, as Peter has always said on the show for a long time now, horror movie directors can end up being the best comic book directors, like Sam Raimi, mind you, because they can actually utilize the camera in an interesting way and create a visual language for the movie, because it is supposed to be, by the way, a visual medium. And Peter said in response to that, Sean Levy was my biggest worry. I mean, my biggest worry was Kevin Feige, but we'll see how much of that is true or not. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're going to move on to our discussion now of Inside Out 2. For the first time, I'm going to read some quick snippets of some reviews to give people a taste of this. Of course, I'm going to read the synopsis from a letterbox. So here we are with Inside Out 2. Make room for new emotions. Teenager Riley's mind headquarters is undergoing a sudden demolition to make room for something entirely unexpected. New emotions, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, who've long been running a successful operation by all accounts, aren't sure how to feel when anxiety shows up. And it looks like she's not alone. That's the movie. Okay. And this film, if you look, has received a total of 299 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. 91% of those have been positive reviews. The audience score, over 5,000 verified ratings, 96% of the audience loved this movie. So there's that. And then, some quick ones here. I cannot believe he is considered a top critic. Sean Chandler, a fantastic sequel which delivers the experience you want from an Inside Out film, and also finds new ways to explore emotions and puberty. We should note that this person was put off greatly by Turning Red. Callum Cooper, while the original remains the gold standard for modern animation, the sequel more than justifies its existence via its emphatic themes, strong humor, and engrossing animation style. Donald Clark, after a period of some ups and more downs, Pixar can at last boast, following up one of their later classics respectfully, deserves the healthy audiences it will surely stir up. Claudia Puig, I found it a worthy sequel, just about as clever, moving, and enjoyable as the original film. Philip de Simeon, sparky, kaleidoscopic, and boldly honest about the tougher side of growing up. Inside Out 2 is Pixar's most profound and moving movie since, well, Inside Out. Okay. Hi. Listen, gang. Look. Throughout the long history of the show, we, unfortunately, have had a number of times where we have had the displeasure of having to come on here and talk about films that we weren't that psyched out about. In fact, a lot of times we've come up here and we've talked about films that really, and I mean this with all sincerity, really, really, really didn't do it for us. And when that happens, it's I'm sure it's not fun for those people who may be listening and who happen to enjoy those movies quite a bit. I know I speak from personal experience. It's never fun to hear others crap on something that you liked. And if that's how you feel, you're more than welcome to skip this discussion or click off or whatever it is. Because I have to tell you, I'm literally scrolling here to find literally a person that felt remotely to the way that we felt, but I, to date, have not been able to find really much written online that really kind of encapsulates how we feel about it. So unfortunately, which is why you're here to watch us, we are now going to have to speak for ourselves here and kind of articulate what happened here. We're a few weeks removed from having seen it. This, I don't feel, was very good. Just putting it out there. I watched this twice. Okay. Just to see if it was an off first-hand experience, and to see if the second time would kind of like make me look at things a different way. It did not. In fact, I feel like it only brought the film even it brought it down even more. I gotta tell you folks, I genuinely love the Pixar animation studio. I feel strongly in that just about 98% of its output has been very successful. And I mean successful made movies. And rare it is for me to feel, after walking out of a Pixar film, completely hollow. Rare is it that one of their movies makes me feel absolutely nothing. Rare is it that one of their films leaves no impression. That one of their films leaves me completely forgetting about it as I'm walking away from the movie. I gotta tell you, even in some of their lesser successful stuff, which I'm very critical of and have been on the show for quite some time of these particular titles, even they had moments in their films that were well designed and executed in terms of what they were trying to achieve, which was to make you feel something. And I feel it is ironic on various levels that this movie is supposed to be speaking to people dealing with emotions, and yet I walk away feeling none of them at all. If I was feeling anything watching the film and walking away from it, it would be bewilderment. I was just kind of all kinds of underwhelmed, as well as confused for what exactly people were going on about. While they had seen the film and they had spoke so highly about it, there's all these conversations then after the fact that personally enrage me. Whether we're discussing this as one of the better Pixar sequels, which most people were saying that, by the way. Fucking insane to say that, I feel personally. Or even worse yet, when people were making direct comparisons to this and Turning Red, that was even more enraging for reasons that we can, get into. But I gotta tell you, folks, I'm a little bit disturbed at the idea that this really didn't do it for me, because if this is a sign for what's to come, not good. More than any other movie, with the exception of Lightyear, Because I think Lightyear and Inside Out 2 do have a through line that connects both of them, in which both of them do feel like movies that were made entirely because oh my god, we need money right now. We need something. We need to throw something out there right now. Even more so than Lightyear, I would say. What dings this movie even more so is the fact that there are elements as you are watching and you are experiencing this movie that feels so rushed and undercooked. I am so sorry to say this just wasn't it. I was in the middle of my Pixar rerun for me personally, and one of my initial reactions was that I really wasn't very kind to Cars 3. I had only seen it the one time, I want to say, in theaters, and I had not gone back to see it again until a few weeks ago. And then it turns out, oh yeah, it's a really good movie. And I feel like walking out of Inside Out 2, I felt strongly in that I think I owe Cars 3 a big apology. Those are my initial impressions. We will definitely get into more about the parts of the film that didn't quite make us feel this way, but I hope I communicated to you how this made me feel, and it made me feel nothing, confused, and kind of at a loss for like, what happened? David.
I thought this movie was fine or okay. I mean, what I mean by that is like whatever the middle part of for you between bad and good is, that's where I'm at. Because I really can't complain much about the story itself. You know, I don't like that they added the new emotions, but there was purpose to them within the story. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, you use anxiety for this, boredom came out. I don't know if you would consider that an emotion, but she had a purpose in certain places and all that, which was completely fine. And the story in itself was okay in terms of how the emotions were useful and how they developed Riley as a main character. All of it was just fine. But there's a lot of things I would say behind the scenes that I just did not like, and I just feel like we didn't get this sequel's full potential. And you can say that this is all personal stuff, but there's a lot of things personally that I wish they would have gone a different route on. For one thing, not make Riley the main character. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I just don't like what they did with this. But again, at the same time, I really can't say that much bad things about the plot itself. Like, it was just fine. You know, we got to A and B, made sense. I liked the little more details that they added within the brain, that it was funny. And that's another thing too. I laughed at the movie. There were some hilarious moments and all that. But man, I've never been so like at odds with a movie before. Like, it's insane how this movie maybe makes me feel this way. But once we get into spoilers, though, you'll see like why. I have a lot more complaints than I do compliments about this movie.
Yeah, and it's certainly a far cry from the praise. It's been kind of universal praise for the film. Here's one. Let's see what David Ehrlich, IndieWire. All brains, no heart. This disappointing sequel proves Pixar learned all the wrong lessons from its pandemic years. The pandemic couldn't have come at a worse time for Pixar, as we were saying earlier, right? The fading animation powerhouse emerged from a decade of creative misfires and middling sequels, just to have two of their most personal films, Luca and Turning Red, dumped onto Disney Plus, further diluting the brand by retraining audiences to think of Pixar as just another content provider. Lightyear was supposed to be the silver bullet that got the studio back on track as the cartoon kings of the summer box office, but the ill-conceived Toy Story spinoff only confirmed that the Luxo Jr. had lost all its luster. Meanwhile, last year's equally unsatisfying Elemental stumbled out of the gate in a way that it took the shine off of its slow burn commercial success. And so we arrive at Inside Out 2, which so perfectly ticks Pixar's boxes in a way that forces the sincerity of its storytelling into a losing battle with the cynicism of its existence. It's full of joy, light on fun, and overstuffed with a mess of other emotions the film ingeniously personifies without ever really bringing them to life. Kelsey Mann's feature debut is not only a sequel to director Pete Docter's 2015 mega hit that felt like the most Pixar movie of its decade, for better or worse, but Inside Out 2 also allows the studio to revisit the rare premise so universal that almost every person on Earth can see themselves in it without squinting. What if your brain was an office where all your emotions were forced to work together? Pixar has always had a very, I'm going to skip that part because it's kind of a weird tangent. In spite of Doctor's prescriptive approach, however, there was an undeniable poignancy to how Inside Out rendered growing up as its own form of grief. Each new excitement forcing us to leave something irreplaceably precious behind. And yet, relying on a handful of generic emotions to dramatize that process often made the movie seem more like a troubleshooting manual than a work of art. Okay. I'm looking at this review, guys, and I feel like it's kind of lost itself. I'm not even sure what the hell he's talking about. Okay. Yeah, we're going to move away from this. He's just going off on a corporate rant. And I'm not sure that's really going to help our purposes for what we wanted to convey right now. So we're going to move away from that part. Yeah, we can go ahead and get into the details of the film. I guess my main thing about the movie is that there really isn't that much to say. I mean, we all watch the movie and we all know what happens, right? And I guess for what's there, it's fine. But my main problem was that none of it really was making me feel much of anything. I do think, as you were saying, there were too many new characters. There were too many new emotions. I don't think it quite worked that well. If anything, maybe it would have been better serviced if it was just one new emotion that was being added, and that would be anxiety, and that would be interesting to kind of explore if it was just that one new character. But with the new emotions, it just looked overcrowded. I don't particularly think that the designs for the new characters are quite that well idealized. I feel like we even were talking about it in the weeks before the movie even came out on this show, that they kind of look like the reject, concept character designs from Inside Out 1. So it is kind of like, okay. But even in the movie itself, I mean, I guess they're fine, but I don't really like any of them. Not really at all. None of them are likable. I don't remember any their names, quite frankly. I only know the ennui, anxiety.
Boredom and envy.
Oh, boredom?
No, sorry, embarrassment.
Embarrassment. So that didn't quite work out for me. I don't know. I struggle with what it was exactly they were doing with anxiety that wasn't quite working for me. I don't know. It wasn't doing it. I think and then the stuff with Riley. I like that there was more Riley in the movie. I don't know if it was really a good decision to essentially remove the mom and dad from the film. Because they really weren't in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they had like 2 scenes and that was it. They're not really involved in anything. And I feel like such a big crux of the first movie was that dynamic. And now you're throwing Riley in with these new people. And I found it really hard to care about any of what was happening with her. If there was a good part of the film, I do like how they were all, the original emotions had more time together, and I guess they were going on a journey and stuff, but it still really wasn't quite hitting. So I feel like it was just kind of blah. David.
Well, for one thing, they still could have added the parents into the movie too. Like, I really thought that moment where she finds out her friends aren't going to the same school, and like she kind of like looks kind of like the other way from them outside the window, and I think she might have gotten a tear out. I don't know. I can remember. Either way, she looked sad. I really thought maybe the mom would have had a shot of the mom looking in the mirror, looking back at her or something like that, and then you could have just had her call every day, like in the morning or afternoons or whatever, and like. Then you could have had like this voiceover within her brain, and then that's when how all the emotions know what they're talking about and everything. So it could have worked, and I feel like it could have like brought up this moment between the two of them that they connect or something. I don't know. It could have worked. Either way, yeah. And like you mentioned, I did say that the whole movie was a bit overcrowded with these new emotions. I mentioned that there was purpose to these new emotions and all that. Ennui being the whole, it's like, yeah, whatever. Those moments, which were funny. And then anxiety herself, yeah, she has purpose. She showed the way they portrayed her inside the brain was really interesting and everything. And I mean, the whole plot happens because of her and all that. But at the same time, though, I mentioned this too, you could have just used the same emotions. You could have just used fear to be that. And I think the best way to portray this is by just bringing in a different character. Not even put Riley in this movie at all. And have that new person's emotions, have it be fear that keeps taking over instead of joy like in the last movie. And you could have just made the exact same story with a different character. And then, yeah, like you mentioned too, there's not much to say about the plot or the story. We just go from one end to the other, go back, and
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. She learns to let go of anxiety, or anxiety learns to let go of Riley. Either way, and that's about it. Like, I feel like this could have been like a short film or something at the very least. But, and then when it comes to like, I guess the world building of this movie, I feel like adding those new emotions breaks a lot of it. One of them being like, why don't we see those other emotions with the mom and dad and everything? Why is anxiety here when fear could have just been the same thing? And fear was the same thing. In the first movie, he comes up with like a whole bunch of scenarios of what's going to happen to her on her first day of school, which is basically what anxiety does when she goes to the hockey camp thing. So they're basically the same thing. And you know, some people might be like, don't think about it too much, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, and I would agree to that. You know, I always hate the argument of people being like, with the Toy Story movies, whenever one new movie comes out, they always start questioning, like, wait, how are they alive? That I never cared about it myself. But this one, because the first one, like, had such perfect world building within people's brains, I kind of wish they would have stuck with it. And you really could have had, like, you could have done many, many more movies with that, with what you just stuck to. And now it kind of seems questionable on some parts. But yeah, but like I said too, there was some funny moments. I like the part when they got locked up and you see Riley's biggest secrets and sarcasm moment. What else? I think they brought back that whole bubblegum joke thing from the first one. I can't remember what else. That's some of the big ones right there. But like I said, throughout the movie, my sister and I, we were laughing. We were kind of like, oh, that's interesting. That's like new thing about the brain and all that. But then that's about it. We can't. Then her and I were started questioning, like, okay, hold on. How does she learn this lesson of letting go anxiety, of like letting her other emotions like push through and all that? I don't know. We were kind of questioning that, and we did wish the parents were involved in that, because they did kind of help her out in the end of the first one too. So
yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I want to read some stuff here. Ben Rowe just saw Inside Out 2. It's honestly a shame that it's done so well, as I thought it was utterly unnecessary and copied the first plot beat for beat. So I guess there will be more unimaginative sequels incoming. Some touching scenes, but its very existence just felt cynical. Fun enough. He continues to say, it breaks all the rules created in the first movie. Every single one of the new emotions could have been a combination or a facet of one of the existing ones, and none of them existed in the adult minds in the first movie. I have disliked it more and more through the day. Empress Pompeii on Twitter. Do not understand the positive reviews for Inside Out 2. One of the least inspired films from a studio that has become unbearably touch and go. The final 20 minutes are moving, but don't make up for the overly clever writing and inconsistent characterizations and cut and paste plot. Hearing Pixar throw genuinely good films like Turning Red and Luca under the bus for more like this, and then seeing a total lack of criticism of it, is so depressing. That's the part to me that kind of gets me. It's like, really? Like, look, this is the part that's really confusing about it. It's like, why is there a complete lack of criticism? Like, there was plenty of criticism of Monsters University, of Finding Dory, Cars 3, Incredibles 2, obviously Cars 2, Toy Story 4, all these other Pixar sequels had plenty of detractors and had plenty of criticism written about it, except this. And then I asked the question to you 2 weeks ago. Okay, let's think about this critically right now. If you were to think about all of those Pixar sequels that I mentioned to you, again, Cars 2, Cars 3, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, Toy Story 4. You know what? Let's not even count Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3. Let's just do Toy Story 4. Incredibles 2 and Finding Dory. Where does Inside Out 2 fall for you?
I mean, the lowest.
The absolute lowest.
Yeah.
So you would put this lower than Incredibles 2?
Yeah, just because I think has more memorable moments than Inside Out 2.
I mean, Incredibles 2, for one, has better animation. I think. I mean, I wasn't really impressed with the animation of Inside Out 2. Also, it has a much better score. That's one of the things that's so depressing. I don't know what Michael Giacchino was, what he was doing, but the score for Inside Out 2 was sad. What happened here? You took a memorable piece of music and didn't even feature it in the movie.
Yeah, I don't remember it at all.
Let's see here. This comes to us from M.N. Miller on In Session Film. Let's see here. As a Pixar fanatic with an obsession with behaviorism, and considering Inside Out is firmly placed in my top 3 of the legendary studio's filmography, Inside Out 2 sounded like a surefire hit. On the surface, anyway. However, Inside Out 2 may be the most meh Pixar film the studio has ever made. The film isn't particularly funny and suffers from unusual tonal dissonance. The story packs very little emotional punch, which was sorely needed and missing from the original's high standard. Finally, the script is cluttered with new animated characters representing emotions, removing the original voice cast's chemistry that was top tier. The big mistake Inside Out 2 makes is not centering the story on Riley's 2 friends, Grace and Bree. I didn't even know their names. And they were also barely in the movie, right? Like, they really were not. I mean, we see them in the car once, and then the rest of the time we see them at a distance. Mm-hmm. Grace and Bree. So we never feel their connection, and thus not truly feeling the anxiety of the potential loss. There is more screen time in the last 2 acts to do with older children Riley is trying to befriend, which doesn't allow the story of growing up and moving on to resonate. The story goes down familiar tropes by offending friends that is standard in far worse family films and has become a storytelling crutch. The animated film would have worked better by introducing just anxiety and having the team work from there. Instead, we have a weird side adventure that is excessive filler, even for a 96-minute movie. I certainly wouldn't fault anyone for enjoying the new Pixar with their families, but at theater prices, Inside Out 2 is overhyped and underwhelming family entertainment that strangely left me feeling apathetic about the experience. Yeah. I even was talking to Peter. I shared with him a video of this insane person. And he was saying, like, I still don't even know what Inside Out 2 is about. He didn't see it, but no one's talking about what it is about. Everyone's talking about, like, how much money it's made. Okay. Yeah. What should I say here? David, do you have at the top of your mind? Okay, I'm not sure there really is much more to say about Inside Out 2. It's pretty much. I mean, what more can we say? I feel like you just said to us, David, you communicated to us very much that of the Pixar sequels themselves, you would put them at the bottom. Like, at the absolute bottom of all of them. But if I were to ask you the same question, but now we're going to include all 28 Pixar movies, do you have an idea about where it would fall?
I think I have my list.
Do you have it? I have it out in front of me right now. And I just rejiggered it. And I don't know when the hell we're gonna get the chance to talk about this again. I'm not holding out my breath for anybody else to be available, so I guess we should just do this now. I may actually just change something right now, based on what you said.
Wait, how many Pixar films are there?
28.
Okay, no, I had to write them up. Yeah, 27, really. What? Right below Incredibles 2, Finding Dory. So.
Okay. I have it at 26. So if you had it at 27, what was the film you had below it?
Lightyear.
Dead last, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn it. I have mostly the same thing. I just I have Inside Out 2 26 and Lightyear is at 28. By the way, I feel like the fact that we both have it dead last already answers this question, but I'm gonna say it anyway. How poorly has that movie aged?
Not good.
I was trying to rewatch it a few weeks ago. I was like, no, I don't need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it pretty well. I don't really want to do this, so I stopped it. Okay, all right. Now I don't want to get into the whole thing because I feel like we are. We could if we wanted to. Do you have your whole list in front of you?
Yeah.
Has it been updated?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're going to be... this is where we're going to diverge wildly. Because you mentioned Dory was near the bottom, and you're dead fucking wrong on that. Like, I swear to God, I will fight you to the death. That is... You are way out of track for putting her anywhere near the bottom. Because I'll just say this, for my piece. I had a lot of these Pixar films... It timed out pretty well because I was doing the end of my summer school position, and I was watching these films with kids, then also watching them on my own. I really vibe with Dory in a big way. But I guess people don't feel the same way about that. I mean, It's a slower movie than Nemo for sure, but I feel like there's a lot there that really kind of like gets to me emotionally. I love the dynamic of Dory and Hank. And it's really interesting because here's how we'll do it this way. We'll kind of compare these movies where we're at. We'll start off with you. So you put Lightyear at 28, correct? Mm-hmm. I also had Lightyear at 28. Now you put Inside Out 2 at 27. Yes, yeah. I put Inside Out 2 at 26. So you're saying to me that 26 for you, and since we already mentioned Dory, where was Dory for you?
25.
25, okay. I have it at 10. So, do you see that gap? No, man. You gotta tell you, like, no, it's not a surprise. I hadn't watched the movie in many, many years. I had the chance to watch it again. I adore it. I really do think it's so underappreciated. But yeah, that's a pretty hilarious gap. So there's that. Where do you have The Good Dinosaur?
10. 10.
That's so funny. That's so funny because that's the complete opposite of what we just had. Because here we are. I had Dory at 10. You put it at freaking 25. Well, it's just the reverse right now because you're saying to me that your mind is thinking The Good Dinosaur is at number 10, and I have it at freaking 27. I am sorry. That film is boring as shit. That has to be one of the most boring films I have ever experienced. I was literally trying to rewatch that thing the other week, and I was bored to freaking tears. I have no idea what the hell happened behind the scenes, and I have no idea. You go back to the Barely News Crew YouTube days. I gave that thing a positive review because I was like, yeah, sure, it was cool, it was fine. That has to me anyway, has to be one of the worst, poorly aged movies ever because I just cannot get through it without trying to bang my head. I'm getting animated about this. Like, it honestly is so boring to me. But you like it.
Yeah.
That's okay. What's it about? Do you like that one so much? It's such a great difference. I have it literally at 27 and you have it at 10.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just fun. I liked the main character. I liked the little adventure. Okay. The music was fucking fantastic. Yeah. To be fair though, I need to rewatch a lot of these. Bug's Life, I really need to rewatch. because I have
Where do you have it?
19, which
Interesting.
I don't know, because like I remember you say you watched it, you know, you bring us some stuff, and I'm like, I feel like it should be higher on my list. And honestly, it's only on 19 because I'm like, there's no way I can put it below 20. You know, like, there's no way I can put this below Cars 2.
That was one of the films that we grew up with, you know?
Yeah.
It feels kind of wrong to do that. But I don't have it that much higher. I love A Bug's Life, but it's only at 16 for me. But I've got to be real with you. That sounds bad, but like I want to say, like, when we hit... I like most of these movies. Like, there's only a few that I think are not very good.
No, yeah.
So it's like, even if you're at 19, I think you're still in a good slot.
I would, even with Lightyear, I wouldn't consider them any of these movies bad. Right. It's just, you know, Lightyear wasn't great. It's not that memorable for me. Like, but I still wouldn't consider it a bad movie. You know, I would show it if I have kids of my own. I'll probably show Lightyear, but.
Oh God, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because I wouldn't put myself through that again. Like, hell no.
I'll show them every other movie first.
No.
And
don't do that. Don't you need to personally curate damn things. You need to show them the things that you like, because if you show them crap, I mean, they're gonna see it eventually, right? You can't really control it. But the first few films are very, very important. So yeah, you said Bug's Life for you was 19. Bug's Life for me was 16. So not too different there. And you had Incredibles 2 at what number?
Incredibles 2,
26, I want to say.
Yeah,
I had it at 25. So just about in the same spot, mostly anyway. Okay, so my bottom 4: Lightyear, Good Dinosaur, Inside Out 2, Incredibles 2. Where did you have Brave?
Brave 12.
Wow. You like the film?
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. I love the story. Okay. I love the main character. I mean, I'm gonna say I love her for all these movies, but I like her. She's good, hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. I feel like it doesn't grab me quite in the same way. I think Brave is good, and technically I do have it lower than another film that we'll see. I got it at 24. And how do you feel about Cars 2, though?
Cars 2?
Yeah. I
mean, I enjoyed it. It's a fun movie. And
I feel the same way. I don't think it's anywhere near the atrocity people think that it is. I think it was... to me, I think it goes so hard in the direction that it's going for. I'm like, wow, okay. I had fun with it. Where do you have it?
Cars 2, I have it on 21.
I have it at 23.
Oh,
okay. So we're not that far apart. I rewatched Onward. It's okay. 22.
Okay.
Where do you have it?
I have it on 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have Cars at 21 and Cars 2 at... I'm sorry. This is where the numbers get confusing. The first Cars is at 21, and I have Cars 3 at 20.
I have Cars...
Where do you have those two?
Cars is 22.
Okay.
Cars 3 is 8.
8?
Yeah.
Whoa, okay. Tell me about that one.
I'm just genuinely impressed by that movie, of like how they just completely took it back to Lightning McQueen, the main character, and all that. And I love the story. I love of just the whole thing of passing the baton, basically, and how it led up to that. And I was really impressed by it.
That's an interesting one, and that's also a big difference. So you had Cars 3 at 8, but you had Cars... Where at again?
Cars 22 and Cars 2 and 21.
Wait, Cars 2 is 21 and Cars 1 is 22?
Yeah.
That's funny though. Because for you, like, they get better as they go.
Yeah.
Cars 1, Cars 2, and Cars 3? That's funny. Didn't see that coming at all. How about Elemental?
I have that one on 16.
Interesting. Okay. I have it at 19. More along the lines. So I have it where you have
Bug's Life.
No, you have Elemental where I have Bug's Life, and I have Elemental. No. You have Elemental where I have Bug's Life, and I have Elemental where you have Bug's Life. It's interesting how that switched around. I gotta be honest with you. I've seen a lot of these Pixar tiered lists and ranked lists. Do you genuinely find Monsters Inc. to be overrated? Because I do. I love Monsters Inc. I love Mike and Sully, but I don't love that movie as much as everybody else does. I feel like everybody puts Monsters Inc. like in top 5, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but to me, it barely cracks top 20. It's at number 18 for me.
Mm-hmm. I have it on number 13.
Okay.
So, higher than.
Now, what about Monsters University?
Monster 18.
That's interesting. Again, for me, it's flipped. So, you said you had Monsters Inc. at 13?
Yeah.
I have Monsters U at 13 for me.
That's fine.
Right? Then I have Monsters Inc. at 18. I always, I'm going to be real with you, I've always preferred MU. Yeah, if I get to choose one over the other, it's always going to be MU. Mm-hmm. And I have seen a lot of people come around to MU. This one's tough for me because I feel like I love the film. I don't find it as rewatchable as some of these other ones. I only have WALL-E at 17.
Really?
That really hurt. I know. It kind of disgusts me that it's so low, but that's what I'm telling you is that there are all these other movies that I care about so much more that it's only at 17. I imagine it's like top 5 for you. Do you have it at top 5?
It's number 1.
Oh man, I am so sorry. Maybe I shouldn't say sorry. Let's see what you do. Let's see if you stab my heart in the next few minutes before I apologize for that. You probably will. And in fact, I'm counting on that. I know. There's plenty of them, but I know there's one that you're going to stab me in the face probably. But yeah, I don't mean to do that to you personally. But yeah, WALL-E is just, I don't know. I don't know. It just can't quite get me back up to it. By the way, did you order the Criterion WALL-E release?
No, I didn't.
You probably should get that one, man. It's like a really good. Do you have a version of the movie?
I think so. I think I had the Steelbook one. You know, the one.
The Steelbook one.
I think it's the like cartoonish looking one. The
ones that came out like in 2018, 19.
Yeah.
Before COVID hit and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want the Criterion version?
I gotta take a look at it because honestly, I can't remember if I do have the movie. I'm pretty sure I do, but.
Your favorite Pixar film? You're not sure if you have it?
Yeah, I know. I have a lot of movies, though. That's why.
I'm pretty sure you do.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure.
Okay. Well, we'll flip this around. I said 17. Who do you have at 17?
17. Onward.
We mentioned that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you have at 15?
Luca.
Yeah. Okay. That's where we're gonna go there. Yeah, well, I guess that explains why some of us didn't quite care to go see it in theaters, right? I'm just gonna put that out there. It did go notice. It didn't go unnoticed, I should say. How no one seemed to want to go back and revisit it except for me. I know Peter would have, although he claims he would have, but he apparently he was busy or whatever. Whatever. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Luca is very. It's funny how we just went from number ones to the teens, but yeah, Luca is my number one. I last week, as a matter of fact, I was like watching like 4 times in a row. There is no such thing as watching that movie too many times. Like it is like the perfect movie for me, perfect summer movie. It consistently hits. I mean, I went back and saw it in theaters 2 times this year. I think people genuinely underestimate the power of that movie. And I had the pleasure of going to the parks recently and seeing how people care about those characters. And yeah, people do not realize. And I also do think, I don't know, I feel like for whatever reason, people think that the simplicity of the film works against it for some reason, as if it has no business being in the pantheon of Pixar films because it has no high concept. It's not super duper like, crazy, out of the box thinking idea. And for whatever reason, that seems to ding it. I don't know. But I just know that for me and for Peter, especially, what really attracted us to this film from a very early, from the very first time that we saw it, was that it very much did feel less like a traditional Pixar movie and more what a Ghibli film would feel like. And I think that was kind of intentional because Porto Rosso, where the movie takes place, literally is, kind of a playing on one of Miyazaki's movies, Porco Rosso. So it was pretty much right there in front of our eyes. But no, I think it's, to me, in many ways, my idea of a perfect movie. But evidently, it's seemingly so singular to me that nobody else really here understands how I feel about it. I mean, not to say that no one else here likes. I think everybody liked the movie quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you did as well when it first came out. But it seemingly it doesn't come across most people's minds as their favorite. But I feel like. Look, the characters, the screenplay, the animation, the score especially is so underappreciated. That's my number one for sure. Mm-hmm. So I knew that was going to be the one. It's like when you said here we go. All right, where do you have Soul?
Soul 20.
Interesting. Okay, I had seen it recently. It went up. I have it at 15. All right. Let's work. Where's Inside Out?
Number 3.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have it at 14.
Wow.
I have it at 14. That seems a bit too low, but I don't know. I feel like I like the movie a lot. I don't like it as much as these other ones. But you have it at number 3. Okay. How about Toy Story and Toy Story 2?
Toy Story is 11. Toy Story 2 is 6.
Okay. I've got Toy Story at 12, and I got Toy Story 2 at 11.
Mm.
There really isn't much to say about those two movies. I do feel, though, what kind of dings them for me nowadays is that I feel like the other two Toy Story films had more going on and more to say to where I'm at right now in life, but I think that very clearly was by design. But they're very, very close to each other. I have Coco at number 9. Where do you have Coco?
Number 4.
Number 4, okay. Again, top 10 is kind of, it's anywhere you want to go at this point. Where do you have The Incredibles?
Incredibles, number 2.
Okay, I have it at 7. So, not too far apart. Where in the 20s do you have Up? I already know where to ask. Where in the 20s do you have Up?
24.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, you're not even going to surprise me with that one. It's like, I remember that, and that should speak for itself, everybody. I have it at number 6. Even that feels too low for me, but yeah, it's there. So yeah, my top 5 is Turning Red, Ratatouille, Finding Nemo, Toy Story 3, and Luca. In that order. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's your top 5, David?
Turning Red, Coco, Inside Out, The Incredibles, and WALL-E. I have Finding Nemo on number 9.
Okay. Where did you put Toy Story 4?
Toy Story 4... 23.
Wow. Whoa. 20. Whoa. Did you put that below all 3 Cars movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. What did Riff say in West Side Story? We gotta organize a rumble or something. I'm feeling we gotta get a knife fight going on here because this isn't right. That isn't right on any level whatsoever. This is what I mean, folks. When we get when we get into these kind of rankings, because like you saw the differences for yourselves. Some of us, there are some of these films where we feel pretty much the same way about, and then some of these where we're like way on the other end of the spectrum. So, yeah, that's interesting. Ooh, man. By the way, we had a previous Pixar list from 4 years ago. If you want to listen to that one, I want to say it's in the Fantasy Fair podcast, which is also on our feed. So if you go back into 2020, you're going to be able to see that with you very easily. So again, as we bring this show to a close, I want to remind you, by the way, of what we want to be doing on the podcast. We will be seeing Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to review that for sure. And by the way, I haven't had the chance to say much about Furiosa, but we're going to have a review on that. But by the way, I do want to say this. I want to say to David to go see Challengers, but he seems adamant that he has no interest in it. Okay, that's fine. I wanted to make it clear various times that he should absolutely see that, but he doesn't seem to care about it. But I will say it is one of the best movies of the year. By the way, he also should see that filmmaker's other amazing movie called Call Me By Your Name. And in fact, I would think it would be an amazing double feature, but fine, whatever. I'm telling you that my top 3 movies of the year so far are Dune Part 2, Challengers, and Furiosa. Amazing movies. I also do want to say I had the chance to recently see A Quiet Place, the new one, and that's also quite good as well. So,
I did see that.
Yeah. What do you think of it?
Oh, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really good. Mm-hmm. So, Lupita Nyong'o was terrific. I love how the whole time she was just like, I want pizza.
Yeah.
And she got that damn pizza.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? What I thought was really interesting about that movie was that it was just really not what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like the marketing was selling it like an Independence Day kind of like alien invasion takeover, and that's not what it was. But it still ended up being a great movie either way. That's 3 really good Quiet Place movies already. So they're keeping this franchise going. It looks like. Also check. Yeah. Did you? Oh, Long Legs. I wanted to see Long Legs. Is that one worth the watch?
I think so. Sorry, okay. That should be more convincing. I think so. Yes. Nick Cage was really interesting in this movie. I think if you just like his acting, like you find it crazy or fun, you should definitely watch it. But I also did like the investigation. I will say though, the ending, it's not bad. I just think it could have been better executed. I'll just say that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm curious what you'll think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I also saw The First Omen.
The first what?
The First Omen. You know which one?
No, I'm not sure I know about that.
Oh, really? Okay.
What is that?
Give me a second. You know the Omen movie, right? Like the...
Oh, The Omen.
Yeah, Omen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a new one called The First Omen?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Like...
Okay.
The birth of him.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty good. I liked it.
All right. So, hopefully next time we'll come back and we can get Alexis hopefully on the show and we can talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. I want to have her on because she's a big X-Men fan. She loves those X-Men films. And supposedly there's going to be a lot of X-Men, a lot of Fox X-Men involved in those movies. So I want to make sure that we, and I'm fingers crossed, it's good. We want it to be good, you know? We want good movies, ladies and gentlemen. And anybody else in between. So that's where we're at. Until then, I want to remind you, of course, that we're doing our S.H.I.E.L.D. recap reaction commentary on the YouTube channel, and we're having an amazing time with it. We just filmed the 13th episode tracks, and let me just tell you, I'm still thinking about it today, like, whoa, what a damn good episode that one was. Yeah, we're having a really good time with those. So stay tuned under our red spotlight for more content and more, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.